Andrew McCarthy.
I
can't believe I'm seeing you in person.
How are you?
The last time we were together, it was on Zoom.
Right.
Which was so exciting, but I didn't get to actually...
And do you know where it was before that?
Was it on a film set?
No, you were, well, it was on a film set. You were 10. And you came to visit a film set that I was on with
Yes.
your mom, and you came to St. Elmo's Fire film set.
I remember talking to you about the fact that I had a crush on Corey Feldman. And you taught me the word, I think I told you this the last time, you taught me the word, and I'm a vocabulary nut, like the dictionary is, I read it like a book. You taught me the word smitten.
Oh, yeah.
You said
That's
you're
a good word. You're
smitten with him.
Yeah.
How is it the 40th anniversary of Pretty in Pink?
I know, insane, right?
My
Insane.
friend Katrina Blowitz, her babysitter got to dance in the prom scene, and I thought we were gonna kill her. We were so jealous. We were just like, tell us everything. What's the day on the set like? She wore a peach dress. You can see her in the movie.
Well, was that the original shoot of the prom scene or the reshoot? Because we had to do a reshoot of the whole thing.
Well, she's in the movie, so whatever it
Okay.
is, it made the cut, because we
Okay.
can see her. She's in a big peach strapless tulle gown, and that's right, there was a reshoot.
Yeah. Because originally, I ended up not going to the prom with Molly, and she went with John Cryer. I just kind of ditched her through peer pressure. And so they tested that for a test screening, and the audience hated that. They wanted us to be together, so we had to reshoot the ending where I come back to the prom and say, I love you.
Are you wearing a wig?
I am wearing a terrible wig.
tell.
Yeah. And it's it's a really bad wig, which I always say if they knew we'd still be talking about that movie 40 years later, they would have paid for a better wig. But yeah, but it's like, I look very forlorn and everything, but it's just bad wig acting. Because my head was shaved. I was doing a play in New York and my head was shaved, and we had to go back out 6 months later and do it.
How did you feel about the fact that they wanted the happy ending versus the...
Well, I needed to get the girl. Come on.
Blaine
so
had to get
Blaine.
the girl. Although I appreciate that she would end up with Ducky.
Yeah, but the audience didn't. But it was also, the movie, the movie's a fairy tale, right? So you have to get, and that's what she wanted, so you got to give her what she wants.
I mean, all I know is that that film is, it's so important to people.
It is so important to people. It amazed
big
me at the
deal.
time. When we did it, I thought it was a silly movie about a girl, wanting to go to a dance and make a dress. And I was like, what? But it's amazing how it still touches people. And then generationally, they show it to their kids, and their kids start to watch the movie, and they kind of go, this is so silly, the hairdos are so funny. But by the end, they're going, that's exactly what it feels like.
Did you know that about St. Elmo's Fire, too, that film could have such an impact?
Well, I knew that part for me was a big deal, because I was very like that guy. I was very sort of that cynical, rotten before you're ripe, kind of playing it cool, like I don't care, but really I'm so scared and sensitive that I just don't want anyone to know. And that was exactly me at 22 years old.
I mean, can I ask, what's it like to be a man who has so many women in love with them?
It's absolutely awesome.
Well deserved. I mean, the amount of posters we had of
I know,
you
it's
on
weird,
our
right?
walls.
Yeah, people come up to me to this day and go, oh my God, you were on my wall.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, I know, it's weird.
You transitioned to directing.
Yeah.
And I loved your documentary that you directed about your fellow colleagues in the Brat Pack. I've watched numerous television that you've directed. Did you think you would go in that direction?
No, I think it just at a certain point, I kind of wanted to be the grown-up in the room. You know what I mean? And I wanted to stop worrying about just what I was doing, and so I sort of wanted to have that perspective outside. And acting it's all about me and us, you know what I mean? And I always said acting creates anxiety and directing is stressful. You know what I mean? I liked going to work and just doing a job, and it wasn't about me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be, for a long time, I felt like I needed to be the grown-up in the room.
And is it true that your son, Sam, was a big impetus to the most recent book you wrote?
Yes, he was. We were sitting at the kitchen table, and he was telling me a story about one of his buds, and it was a funny story. We were laughing, and when he finished the story, he just kind of looked at me and said, "You don't really have any friends, do you, Dad?" Right? And but like many.
What did he mean by that?
We just meant that I said to him, Sam, I have friends. I just don't see them, but I know they're there, and that's enough. Mm-hmm. And he went, yeah, okay. And off he went to see his girlfriend. And I realized I'm one of those guys who, like many guys, I think, particularly who, when I first left home, came to New York, I was 17 years old, and I had this core group of buds and these guys that were sort of my chosen family. And then as life happens, and marriages and jobs and careers, and people just sort of scattered across the country, and these guys were so formative in who I would become, and I realized I hadn't seen any of them in years and years, and some in decades. So I said, I need to go see my friends. So I got in the car and I drove 10,000 miles across America on back roads because I hate highways. And so I was driving on back roads, and I just drove to reconnect with all my old friends.
Okay, we are the same person. I love the back roads. I always say avoid highways, not
Yeah.
my thing. I'm
No,
like,
I hate
I'll go
highways.
twice as long.
Yeah, and you don't see anything. You go from here to California, and you won't see anything but, you know, gas stations and McDonald's.
Exactly. But the back roads is even 2 blocks off the highway
Totally,
is the real place.
And you sort of discover that America is still kind of this wondrous place out there, and people are really super. Because along the way, I started stopping and talking to guys who I met along the way in gas stations or in bars or restaurants, and I just started talking to them about their friends. I said, I'm traveling across country to see my friends, and they started talking and had these amazing conversations.
Have you always been someone who asked questions and wanted to listen to other people?
Well, that's the thing. I should have a talk show.
You should.
Right.
Want to do it together?
No, you're much better. So it was, I mean, I'm curious, I'm interested. And it was a topic I grew to be interested in along the way, because as I was driving and going to see my friends, I also started doing a little research that there's extraordinary sort of statistics of men particularly who don't have friends. And male loneliness, and female loneliness, just loneliness in America is sort of staggering now, the statistics about it. So it was just fascinating. People want to tell their story too. You start asking, you're curious, and you're actually listening, people want to tell their story. Most people don't feel seen.
Can I ask what, is something that you took away with for your own life that might be of benefit to someone else, but for you at least personally, did you realize I do have to work harder on my friendships, or there's something missing?
To me, it was, when I saw my friends, it wasn't that we were catching up, we just picked up. You know what I mean? And it just was right there again. If I did one thing right in traveling across the country, I showed up. You know what I mean? My friends would kind of go, you drove how many thousand miles to come see me? I go, well, you've been important in my life. I needed to tell you that, and I just showed up. I do think that old cliche, and the older I get, the 90% of life is showing up. Just be there. And, that kind of connection, because it's really just about connection. And then the connection, like anything, it feeds on itself. Isolation feeds on isolation, connection feeds on connection. Like we're talking, it feels good, so you just want to keep going.
What do you think sticks out as something that men need? And I ask that because I want to know, and also maybe if we know, we might be able to also show up for that thing.
Well, I think, the cliches of men are terrified to feel vulnerable, because vulnerable can be construed as weakness, and the one thing a man shouldn't show ever is weakness. And it's just preposterous, of course. I don't know how that somehow got tagged together, but it did. And I encountered a lot of that along the way.
So interesting, because if only men knew that, I think a lot of women love seeing vulnerability in a man. Love. We'll be right back.